Hi there. Today's practice will consist of 8 different yin yoga postures that we will hold for up to 2 minutes. All you need is 2 yoga blocks. So laying flat on your back, releasing your arms out to your sides and allowing those feet to flop open. Closing your eyes. We're going to start in banana pose. So cross that left ankle over the right and slide those feet over to your right. Reach those arms overhead, grabbing onto your left wrist with your right hand and sliding your torso over to the right a little bit in the form of a banana. So we'll be here for a little bit, so settling into your mat and finding your breath. With every exhale, breathing into any tension or tightness that you may feel throughout your body. And allowing yourself to really release deep into your pose. Setting an intention for yourself today. And concentrating on quieting your mind throughout your practice. Always coming back to your breath to help you do so. Okay, releasing, coming back to Shavasana before we move on to the other side. Now switching sides, crossing that right ankle over the left and shifting your feet to the left, reaching those arms overhead and grabbing onto your right wrist with your left hand this time and shifting your torso to the left a little bit and settling in. This pose is a great pose to stretch those lats. You'll feel a nice stretch going up the whole right side of your body. Coming out of banana pose, bringing yourself back into Shavasana. Bringing those knees in towards you. We're going to bring them to the right and come up onto all fours. Our next pose is child's pose. So just keeping those blocks handy, because you may want to use one of the blocks for your child's pose. Bringing those big toes to touch and sitting your hips back to your heels. So if you wanted to use one of your blocks, you could use it underneath your forehead. Releasing down, allowing those arms to release, or you could place your block to the side and release your forehead all the way down to the mat. Now you could bring those knees out a little bit wider if it feels okay for you. If not, you could stay in your standard child's pose. Always listening to your body throughout your practice. If at any time you have to come out of the pose, do so. If you have to stretch out those legs. Child's pose is a very calming pose. It helps us stretch out those inner thighs and hips. So really allowing yourself just to release and keep releasing with each breath. Coming forward out of child's pose, we're going to make your way down into Sphinx pose. So coming into a modified plank and then lowering down. Bringing those elbows underneath your shoulders, releasing your hips down into the mat, allowing them to sink down, keeping those legs extended. The feet could be about shoulder width apart, hip width to shoulder width. Now you could look straight ahead, or you could release your head down, releasing that neck. So depending on how it feels for you, keeping your palms pressing into the mat. And closing your eyes, or you could keep your eyes open and stare straight ahead at the wall. This pose helps us stretch and strengthen those back muscles. If you have to come out of this pose at any time, you could always form a little pillow with your hands and release your head down to the right or the left. And coming out of our pose, we're going to shift back and come forward into all fours. Now we're going to come into dragon pose, which is also known as lizard pose in a more active yoga or yang yoga. Okay, so you could use both blocks. You could always keep your hands or forearms on the block, keeping that right foot right underneath your knee, and just watching, making sure that left knee feels okay. You could always have a little cushion support underneath that left knee if that feels better. If you wanted to go deeper into your pose, you could place the blocks aside and rest down on your forearms. So whatever option is better for you. Now you can allow that knee to release out to the side a little bit, because we will be here for a little bit. Releasing your head. This pose stretches your hips, hamstrings, glutes, and your spine. We're going to come up from dragon on the right and switch into our swan pose, also known as pigeon. So sliding that right foot, wiggling it over to the left side of your mat, keeping that foot flexed as you slide that left leg back, pointing your toes back behind you. You could use your 1 or 2 blocks. You could stack the blocks if you wanted to, opening your heart forward, and then releasing down to your blocks, either to your forearms or to your forehead. You could also use just 1 block if that's better for you, or no blocks. So always feeling it out for yourself. You could always start out with the block and then put it aside. And settling into your swan. This pose opens and lengthens the hips and the lower back. This is one of my favorite poses. It's a nice release after a tough workout. Placing your blocks to the side if you use them. Coming out of your swan, bringing that left leg forward and then shifting back with the right. We're going to come into dragon on the left side, so placing that left foot on the edge of your mat, keeping that knee aligned right above your ankle, sliding that right leg back, pointing your toes back and releasing down either onto your blocks or down towards the mat. So depending what you did on the opposite side, so mirroring what you did on the opposite side. One side may feel tighter than the other, so always listening to your body, never forcing the stretch. So keep breathing into your stretch. Keep breathing and releasing. Making your way out of dragon, sliding that right knee forward a little bit and coming into swan pose on the opposite side. So sliding that left leg over, keeping that left foot flexed to protect your knee. Sliding that right leg back, pointing your toes back, and setting up your blocks if you needed your blocks, if you did so for the opposite side. If not, just allowing yourself to release down into the mat. Always opening your heart forward before you settle into your pose. Coming out of pigeon, bringing your hands underneath your shoulders and pressing up, sliding that right leg forward and the left leg back. We're going to make our way into a seated position, just making sure to grab your block if you're using a block, placing it to the side, bending those knees and grabbing onto your thighs as you lower down all the way down to the mat. We're going to come into supported bridge. So lifting your hips up, sliding the block underneath your glutes, making sure it's not on your lower back. And then bringing your arms out to the sides and allowing yourself to sink down into the block. If you wanted to try a little variation, you could extend your left leg and allow your left foot to flop out to the side. This feels nice on those hip flexors. The supported bridge stretches the neck and shoulders. It also relieves any anxiety or irritability that you may be experiencing. Bending that left leg if you extended it, and now extending the right leg, releasing that right foot out to the side, and enjoying your stretch. Bending that right leg, lifting your hips and placing that block to the side. Stepping your feet out the width of the mat and releasing your knees in towards each other, allowing that lower back to release down towards the mat. The next pose we're going into is a reclined twist. We're going to use our block and add a little variation to it. So extending your left leg and bringing your right leg across your body, placing that block underneath that left knee or thigh area. You can use any level that you like and opening up to the right, looking over your right shoulder. Now if you wanted to change it up, you could bend that right leg, actually the left leg, sorry, and grabbing onto that left foot. If you do this little variation, making sure it feels okay on that lower back. If it doesn't, you can release that leg. Releasing out of your stretch, coming back center. We're going to switch sides. So just holding it here with your knees up before we switch. And then extending your right leg, bringing that left leg across your body, placing that block underneath your left thigh or knee area, then opening up to the left. So if you did the variation, if you wanted to do so on this side also, bending that right leg, grabbing onto your foot. This stretch helps to realign the spine by releasing any tension in the neck and back area. With that variation, you're stretching those quadricep muscles of the legs. Releasing from your stretch, coming back center with your hips. Holding it here for a breath or two. Then bringing those knees in and to your right. As we make our way up, we're going to come into legs up the wall for our last stretch. So just making sure to turn your mat and placing the short end of the mat against the wall. You don't need any blocks for this one. So you're just going to lay on your side, having your hips stacked, going all the way up against the wall, and then bringing your legs up the wall, and then you're going to slide your glutes all the way against the wall. And then extending your legs up, allowing those feet to flap out to the sides, and releasing your arms out to the sides. You could always place them across your belly if that suits you. This is a great stretch to do before bed if you're having trouble sleeping at night, since it helps quiet the mind. And it also helps to relieve leg and feet cramps. You could stay here as long as you'd like. Thank you for joining me for today's practice. Namaste.